Hello, good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is for you. Hope you are having a blessed day or have had one. I know it feels like I probably beat this up, but remember, change your vocabulary. Get rid of the word luck or lucky. Replace it with blessed. Change your perspective, right? Pray. Pray about the things that are important to you. But also pray for the leadership of the world. And if you're not paying attention in this country, you need to start. We've got several cities at this point with such an Islamic foothold that there's a real chance that those cities fall. And if you're someone who thinks I'm just being horrible towards Islamic peoples, then you haven't read the Quran and you don't understand what they're doing. It's as simple as that. Because if you have read the Quran and you do understand what they're doing, and you understand that they're taking over the world without firing a shot. Yeah? Look at Ireland in the case of the teacher, the Christian teacher who refused to bow down to this. And what happened to him? Just the other day. Look up in England the amount of people who have been arrested and or prosecuted for Islamophobia. Look at the lady running for office in, I think it's Seattle. I know it's Washington State. I think it's Seattle. Where she put a post up about on her page. You can go look at all the things she supports and blah blah. Nowhere on that page is LBG blah 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 blah. And she was asked about that. Hey, you support all these things, but there's no mention of the lesbian, gay community, right? What's that about? You see what she said? Well, there are many of our Islam constituents who don't feel that way, unfortunately. So is that where we're at now? If you're on the left side, we're at the point where you just throw every homosexual under the bus in order to make the Islamists happy? I thought we quit doing that back when England quit making it a death penalty a long time ago to be gay. I thought we quit doing that. And maybe we had a lot of work still to do after that, so that all the rights were there or whatever. Yeah. But we stopped killing people for being gay I'm not talking about us. I'm talking about in general, a very, very long time ago, in what we would call civilized society. Yeah. There's a famous author. I'm not gonna mention his name. You'll go look him up. From England, they got put in prison because he was gay. We are backpedaling as fast as we can to make Islam happy, so that they can what? Take away every right and freedom you've ever had? Make you bow down to them? Maybe none of you ever watched the movie The Avengers. Maybe you did. But Loki comes and makes a lot of people in a big group bow down before him. And he says, is this not your natural state? Is this not better than freedom? Is it? Is that what you prefer? Are you the Israelites after being saved from Egypt? Do you want to go back just so you can eat fruit and be a slave? Or in this country, our gay and lesbian communities had better really start paying attention, because it's going to be hard on all of us if we don't watch out. But it's going to be especially hard on women and on the gay and lesbian community. Islam kills you if you're openly gay. You die. There's no discussion about it. That crap ain't allowed, so you die. There may come a time again very, very soon where either we stand up and fight this, We just lose. And here's the truth. The truth is, when people talk about the times when we did step and fight this, they talk about it like Christianity was some horrible thing. You understand, the Crusades were in response. They weren't something that they decided to do just cause. They were in response to hundreds of years of Islam crushing, killing, and taking over Christian nations. Right? As Islam had come through, Egypt was Christian for the most part. Right? All those places right around there, all the way up to what was Constantinople at the time, all of that was Christian. And Islam came through and wiped them out, except for the ones that said, we'll do whatever you say. Right? And eventually, when the leader of Constantinople begged for help, basically the Catholic Church at the time put together a huge group of knights to go and fight the Crusades. But the Crusades were in response to aggressive behavior. They weren't to go and aggress. Now, once the Crusades started, they were trying really hard to take back the Christian lands that had been Christian before Islam came and just destroyed everything. It was bad. If you want to go look it up, go look it up. I'm not going to. But you need to understand that these people were, long after America and England and people like that had said, all right, this slave trade thing's got to stop. It's not okay. 1,000 years after that, even today, son, they were still heavily in the slave trade. They were enslaving colonial people, right? They were enslaving European people. They were enslaving Africans. They were enslaving everybody because they did not care. Either you believed in Islam or you were a pissant. So it was fine to make you a slave. Perfectly okay. They were creating eunuchs because they didn't want you breeding. If you don't like Hitler, you should absolutely abhor Islam. They were way worse. Here's the important part, and they still are. Alright, then away we go, yeah? Chapters 3 and 4 of Joshua. Early the next morning, Joshua and all the Israelites moved out from Shittim and came to the Jordan, where they stayed before crossing over. 3 days later, the officers went through the camp and issued these commands to the people. When you see the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord your God, which the Levitical priests will carry, you must break camp and follow it, that you may know the way to take, for you have not gone over this road before. But let there be a space of 2,000 cubits between you and the ark. Do not come nearer to it. Joshua also said to the people, sanctify yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will perform wonders among you. And he told the priests, take up the Ark of the Covenant and cross ahead of the people. So they took up the Ark of the Covenant and went before the people. Then the Lord said to Joshua, today I will begin to exalt you in the sight of all Israel, that they may know that as I was with Moses, so I will be with you. Now command the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant, when you come to the edge of the waters of the Jordan, there take your stand. So Joshua said to the Israelites, Come here and listen to the words of the Lord your God. He continued, by this you will know that there is a living God in your midst. He will certainly dispossess before you the Canaanites, Hittites, Hivites, Perizzites, Girgashites, Amorites, and Jebusites. The Ark of the Covenant of the Lord of the whole earth will cross the Jordan before you. Now choose 12 men, one from each of the tribes of Israel. When the soles of their feet of the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant, the Lord of the whole earth, touch the waters of the Jordan, it will cease to flow. The water flowing down from upstream will halt in a single heap. Now what are we doing here? We're giving you, what are we doing? We're crossing the Jordan. I was about to just skip right over this because I think it's one of those things you could pick up on, but maybe you weren't here. Maybe, I don't know. I'm trying to make sure I'm doing all I can. Exodus. We're in Exodus, yeah. Moses leads them to the Red Sea, right? And God parts the Red Sea when Moses commands it. And they walk their own dry land. Yes? They get to the other side. The Egyptians try to come through. Waters close in and kill them. This right here is about God making the current generation of Israelites see clearly that Joshua is Moses' heir, right? Moses' equivalent now, right? You see a lot of similarities here. That's on purpose, right? Like I told you, this book is unbelievably consistent. Okay, so the water's going to pile up in a single heap. It's just going to stop flowing. The people set out from their tents to cross the Jordan with the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant ahead of them. When those bearing the Ark came to the Jordan, and the feet of the priest bearing the Ark were immersed in the waters of the Jordan, which overflows all its banks during the entire season of harvest. Okay, entire season of harvest, right? Springtime. We've been through the winter. They're harvesting, what we would say is they're harvesting winter wheat. That's what we would say. And now it was a little different, right? And they had more stuff coming in what we would call the winter harvest, right? Early spring, that harvest. But that's where we're at, right? It's April or whatever, maybe March, and it's that time of year for that early harvest, right? And as a general rule, the Jordan is flowing super full at this time of year, right? Because it's spring and there's spring rains and there's all those things. The waters flowing from upstream halted, standing up in a single heap for a very great distance indeed, from Adam, a city in the direction of Zadathan. Those flowing downstream toward the salt sea of the Arabah disappeared entirely. Thus the people crossed over opposite Jericho. The priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord stood on dry ground in the Jordan riverbed, while all Israel crossed on dry ground, until the whole nation had completed the crossing of the Jordan on dry ground, with the priest standing in the middle. Joshua is your leader now. Joshua is my chosen one for you, right? That's what God's saying with this. He's showing them the same thing from Exodus, so they can see that he is with Joshua, right? It's one of those things you don't have to beat up, right? Just, one second. I'm having a little indigestion moment here, which I have all the time. That was a short chapter, but chapter 4. After the entire nation had completed the crossing of the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, "Choose 12 men from the people, one from each tribe, and command them. Take up 12 stones from this spot in the Jordan riverbed where the priests have been standing. Carry them over with you and place them where you are to stay tonight." Summoning the 12 men he had selected from among the Israelites, one from each tribe, Joshua said to them, "Go to the Jordan riverbed in front of the Ark of the Lord of your God. Lift to your shoulders 1 stone apiece, so that they will equal in number the tribes of the Israelites. In the future, these are to be a sign among you when your children ask you, 'What do these stones mean to you?'" Now, do you remember when that's not the first time we've seen when your children ask you. I'm not going to beat that up. But this is about the Passover meal, right? And when your children ask you about all this, right, and you tell them, the whole story of Egypt and the whole story of what God did, and the whole, right? It's why faithful Jewish folks for a very long time, I don't know about now, to be frank, but for a very long time would sit at Passover and things like that and say aloud, had you saved us from slavery in Egypt, it would have been enough. Had you saved, and go through the whole thing, the whole Exodus, the whole thing. So, I mean, obviously very summarized, but to keep it on your mind and on your heart and orally teach it, right? Because that's how we taught, orally. Teach it to the next generation. What do these stones mean to you? You shall answer them, the waters of the Jordan ceased to flow before the ark of the covenant of the Lord when it crossed the Jordan. Thus these stones are to serve as a perpetual memorial to the Israelites. The 12 Israelites did as Joshua had commanded. They took up 12 stones from the Jordan riverbed, as the Lord had said to Joshua, one for each of the tribes of the Israelites. They carried them along to the campsite, and there they placed them. Joshua set up the 12 stones that had been in the Jordan riverbed on the spot where the priests stood, who were carrying the ark of the covenant. They are there to this day. The priests carrying the ark stood in the Jordan riverbed until everything had been done that the Lord had commanded Joshua to tell the people, just as Moses had commanded Joshua. The people crossed over quickly, and when all the people had completed the crossing, the ark of the Lord also crossed, and the priests were now in front of them. The Reubenites, Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, armed, marched in the vanguard of the Israelites. As Moses had ordered, about 40,000 troops equipped for battle crossed over before the Lord to the plains of Jericho for war. That day the Lord exalted Joshua in the sight of all of Israel, and so during his whole life they feared him as they had feared Moses. Then the Lord said to Joshua, command the priests carrying the ark of the covenant to come up from the Jordan. Joshua commanded the priests, come up from the Jordan. And when the priests carrying the ark of the covenant of the Lord had come up from the Jordan riverbed, as the soles of their feet regained the dry ground, the waters of the Jordan resumed their course, and as before overflowed all its banks. The people came up from the Jordan on the 10th day of the first month, and camped in Gilgal, on the eastern limits of Jericho. At Gilgal, Joshua set up the 12 stones that had been taken from the Jordan, saying to the Israelites, in the future when your children ask their parents, what do these stones mean? You shall inform them, Israel crossed the Jordan here on dry ground. For the Lord your God dried up the waters of the Jordan in front of you until you crossed over, just as the Lord your God had done at the Red Sea, drying it up in front of us until we crossed over, in order that all the peoples of the earth may know that the hand of the Lord is mighty, and that you may fear the Lord your God forever. The word of the Lord. Now, we talked a bit to begin this, and because I knew these were short chapters, they weren't going to take much discussion. But they're really important again, because they're once again justifying, right, Joshua's position. Right? All of Israel now, whether you were a little bit on the fence or not, right, now, you're not on the fence now. Right? Joshua gave some orders, and when those orders were followed, the Jordan dried up and you crossed over on dry land. You've been hearing about that, about the Red Sea, your whole life. You weren't there, remember, different generation. But you've been hearing about it your whole life because you have been part of the group out in the wilderness. So as the moment that happens, right, every one of them, they put Joshua right up here with Moses at that moment. Pray. God, pray. I am genuinely afraid for my children and for my great nieces and nephews, for what will someday be my grandchildren. Because if this isn't stopped real quick, and here's the thing, there's plenty of people saying we have to do something about this, and then you have people that are either extremely left or just extremely stupid saying, oh, you're taking a small group and saying it's everybody. No, I'm not. I just watched the mayor of Dearborn, Michigan tell a man that lived in Dearborn, Michigan his entire life, when the man said, I don't recognize my hometown anymore. Right? I don't recognize my hometown anymore. The mayor, who was elected by all his wonderful Islamist buddies, and is himself a devout member of the Islam community, told this man in a town hall meeting, when he said he didn't recognize the community anymore, his hometown where he grew up. He said, although you live here, I want you to know that you're not welcome here. I want you to know that the day you leave or die, we will throw a huge parade in celebration of you leaving here. Y'all, when you're allowed to just open face say that, as the mayor of a damn city? I don't know. I've prayed every day about it. And if I didn't have a sore on my buttocks, I'd be on my way to Dearborn, Michigan yesterday so that today I could be a part of this that's going on. But we're in real trouble here, and I think today may show that. I think it may show that how much trouble we're in. About to find out. But when you see whatever happens today, don't turn it, don't twist it, don't make it about, well, if they'd just stayed out of there. Well, just stayed out of there. That's a country, that's a city within a state, within a country that is supposed to be Christian-based and free. So if they can't go protest what's going on there safely, that's a real problem. Now, if this was vice versa, this is the other way around. This was a Christian place, and they were kicking out Islamist people, and they were doing the things they're doing there. How fast would the lefties go up there and riot, burn everything down? They would, wouldn't they? They absolutely would. Don't you remember that today when a bunch of Christians go up there and peacefully protest? Don't you remember that? Don't you remember that when it takes somebody attacking them for them to attack back? Don't you remember that when these bikers say that's enough today? Because it's going to happen. I love you. Jesus Christ loves you a lot more. And God, y'all, I don't know. We got to pray. We got to pray. Have a beautiful and blessed day.